So what's the
I
biggest
think,
challenge in your business? Hey, Trish.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm in the process of building community partnerships in my very localized, hyper local community. And I'm partnered with a couple of nonprofits where I give back 20% of my commission. And I've been Googling and trying to find other agents that have done that in the past. And I'm having a hard time finding a good solid guide for that.
Well, there are several ways to do these. I did it with colleges and universities because they move people in a lot. And so I would team with them. And I don't think of course, your commission dollar is a lot higher. I mean, 20% is a pretty big chunk. You know, I might set up a foundation, Trish Nunes Foundation, to put that money in. And there may be opportunities that others would contribute to it as you do other events in the community that your foundation
great idea.
supports these various charities. And all the money from this event we're doing, and you buy raffle tickets for this or whatever, is going to go into that foundation, which has a couple of it's great for you as a person, and it's also great for your charities. Are you wanting to team up with other charities or other businesses or other organizations?
Well, so I have a meeting today with one of the schools actually reached out to me because they found out that I'm doing this with a nonprofit. So I have a meeting with them right after this meeting. And I'm just trying to, because I've never done anything like this for a school, how to structure that.
So what questions will you ask when you get there?
So first of all, like well, I need to know what their foundation, because apparently I have to put the money into a foundation that they're working with. From what I've been reading.
The school,
whatever foundation they're working with to fund their like music program, art program, whatever their need. I don't know, trying to find out what their needs are.
So I'd ask about their foundation. How is it classified for tax purposes? What typically are the contributions that are made? Who are the people that are involved in contributing to it now, so that you can kind of do your research. This is just doing your research.
Yeah.
And then I would ask them, what exactly did you have in mind for me? I'm really excited about this. Tell me, what exactly did you have in mind for our working together? I wouldn't tell them anything. That first meeting should only be you asking questions and gathering information.
Okay.
Because obviously you need to sit down with your CPA or accountant or business manager or whatever you have before you just jump into that. On first glance, with what you've said, I'm thinking they're just looking for a way to get money from you.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
Well, however, you're looking to get business for that money. And I think, is it an elementary school, did you say?
So one of them is a middle school and the other one's a high school.
We have a little better shot with the high school, but I think, asking who's contributing now lets you know what other businesses are, which could open a door for you to develop a relationship with that business and get referrals, because you're both contributing to the same foundation. But I would start with a lot of questions, and then I would just have a conversation with my coach, and definitely with your CPA, whether or not it's a good one to get involved in, because most people with schools will offer some type of $500 scholarship to high schools. What I've learned in my 40 plus years of doing this, I was very young when I started, is that when you give these scholarships, the younger the age of the person getting something, the more involved their parents are, which is who you want to get to, because little 6-year-old Bobby ain't going to buy a house this year, but parents might buy or sell. So I always think in terms of, who are my eyeballs? Who do I want to reach? And how will I get there? And elementary schools can be very, very good. Just as a thought, not that the others aren't.
I do have a meeting with the elementary school as well, but these people actually reached out to me and they're in my local neighborhood. So
great exposure for you. So I would just be asking a lot of questions, and then I'd review it with my CPA and my coach. Does that help?
Yes. And your idea about creating a foundation, I love that, because I hadn't thought of that.
Well, I'm done for the day, guys. See ya. No,
Good job. Good job.
the other thing that I used to do is a monthly mentor interview with, and I think Ray knows this because I think I probably told him when I coached him, a monthly mentor interview with the big dogs. I always called them the big dogs. I'm from Kentucky, in the community, like the mayor, the county judge, John Schnatter, who owned Papa John's Pizza at the time.
Uh-huh.
The guy that owned the Yum, or that was CEO of the Yum Corporation, all the big dogs. I would invite them one a month to lunch.
Mhm.
I had a list of questions I would ask. They were my monthly mentor interviews. I think, Carrie, didn't I mention that on our call that I did? The monthly mentor interview, maybe not. And it wasn't questions about real estate. It was about, how did you build this? What was your biggest mistake? What was the best thing you did? What marketing worked best for you? You know, just stuff that honestly feeds their ego, and nobody asks them that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then, like, I did this with the best was the guy who came in and was running Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mhm.
I did that with him. I got like 30 referrals in that first year because he was new and he was going to be changing, you know, cleaning house anyway. It was phenomenal. And all I did was take him to lunch and ask him some questions. And I found out he was a big golfer. So I think I sent him some golf gloves or balls or something like that. But then after that first year, I actually flew them on a private plane to the Greenbrier for the weekend with my husband and I, where we play golf. We don't play, but you know,
Right.
it impressed them. So I got a ton of business from it. But after that many deals, you can do that.
Yeah.
So that's a really great way to hook up with other businesses. They may have a foundation as well. Learn about their foundation.
Mhm. Okay.
So-
Debbie, you did mention that. You did mention that on our last call about taking the, like, each month you did like the top 12 big dogs.
Yeah.
And can you how did you invite them to the lunch? Like, did you already have a connection with them, like someone that knew them that kind of introduced you, or like what scripting did you use to kind of like, because obviously they get calls all the time for people.
I only did one a month. And I always tried to be involved in charitable things that the big dogs or their wives or husbands were involved in. So where I met the guy with Blue Cross Blue Shield, it was some organization. It was at a restaurant at a high-rise building downtown. It could have been a chamber event. It could have been, I don't know, it could have been something, but he and his wife were there. It was their first event they went to. And that's when I invited him to lunch. It was kind of hard for him to say no, like we're standing there. So with John Schnatter, he was actually tough and I know him. I went through his Sternberg, the guy that does all of his development stuff. And I could have taken him to lunch, but I thought I really want to talk to John. We've met before. I mean, I lived like 3 blocks from the office, his main office. So I just sent flowers to his assistant with a note, called her, and you know, a few times, took a few months, but I did. So it's different for everybody. But the gatekeeper is typically the assistant. So you want to get through the gatekeeper. And I just try to go someplace. If I know if there's some event and it's sponsored by Papa John's and he's going to be there and I haven't met that person, I'm going to go to that event and meet him. But I'm not going to say, hi, I'm Debbie. I'm a realtor, because they think we all are hobbyists. So I don't do that. I'm actually building a company, and I've been so impressed with how you have built your company that I'd love to take you to lunch and ask you some questions. And that always seemed to work.
Love it. Feeding that ego. Huh?
They do have egos. I learned that. Other questions, or are we going to get started on our topic today? So if I recall, and I know Carrie knows this and Ray knows this, I have had a brain injury. And so my short-term memory is bad. Like sometimes when my husband comes home, I go like, who are you? No, it's not that bad, but it isn't good. So my short-term memories. So if I've got something wrong here, guys, you guys or Graham, you all just let me know if I get off track. But if I recall, the conversation was around how to move people to make a decision, build rapport through personality types. Did I get that right, Ray? Okay. Yeah. I've done this a lot, and I may have done this before for some of you. At the end of the day, The only way to get into someone's world is to understand their personality type. And I'll give you an example. We've got a speakers bureau at Tom Ferry, and we were just on a 2-hour call. And one of the gals that wants to be a speaker said, you know, my coach said, because I presented at this other event, and he said that he watched my presentation and thought it was very dry. And she said, now I don't even think I can do it. I've just lost all confidence. So I kind of reached out through her, and we were chatting on the chat. And I said to her, who's your coach? And she told me, and I said, well, your coach's personality is diagonally across from yours. Now, you've been coaching with him for several years, and he knows you well, so he's probably comfortable saying that to you. You have to understand, every time you present to somebody, whether it's an audience or a potential seller, they have a different personality than you. You might walk in there and everybody tells you you're the nicest thing in the world, and they can't stand you from the moment you open your mouth. It doesn't have to do with what you're wearing. It has to do with your personality type. So we have to immediately figure out what their type is if we want to get into their model of the world. So I think all of that starts with the conversation you have with them over the phone. Because you can always ask this question, tell me the 3 most important things about selling your home. And that'll give you a clue to their personality. Does that make sense? Did you know you could do that? Some of you do. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. Just give me a second to pull this up. And I'll go through this. Here's the thing, though. You guys have to commit to unmuting yourself and asking a question whenever you want to. Because I'm not terribly ambidextrous about doing all of this. So I'm just going to share this with you. And if you've got a question, just say, hey, Debbie. And I'll say what? All right. So you guys can see, whoops, you can see this. Get this to the current slide. Okay, everybody can see that, okay? So you are all, each one of you is one of these. I'm sure you've done a personality test, and maybe it said you were a lion. It might have said you were a cricket. How do I know what that really means? It might have said you're yellow. Well, that doesn't mean you're scared or a chicken. It says in that one that you are an expressive. The bottom line is, whenever someone writes a new book, they change the words, the letters, the phrases, because they need to in order to sell that book. I use the Wilson Learning Center Social Styles Handbook Revised, the Social Styles Handbook Revised, because when I tell you someone's analytical, do you have to guess what that means? No, you know what that means. Now, I did put the disc in here with it. D for driver, I is expressive, S is amiable, and C is analytical, because many people have done the disc test. So this is how we start with our personality types. You're one of these. Let's say you are amiable. What that means is you're going to get along perfectly with anyone else that's amiable. So 25% of the population, they got it. You got them. They're good. The other 75%, guys, is completely repelled by you because they're not amiable. So what you have to do is figure out, how do I determine what they are, and what words and phrases do I use to get into their model of the world? So let's start with the driver. If you'll notice, everything I do here gives you a hint of ways that you can tell what they are. Obviously, the favorite color for a driver, guys, would be what?
Red.
Bingo, red, white, or black. One of our great coaches, just dearest friend of mine, I go to her closet and everything in the closet is red, white, or black. And there's this one pink dress. And I'm like, what's that for? She goes, oh, I knew you'd like it. Thanks. So, I mean, they literally, that's what they wear. They don't see a need to wear other colors. Now, my husband will wear orange. He's of one of the schools that he supports, their color's orange. But other than that, everything's red, white, or black. With a driver, all of their questions start with the word what. Have you ever spoken to anyone and all they ever say to you is, well, what are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, what's going to happen next? Well, what can I expect? They are likely a driver. Everything they answer is in bullet points. If you say, tell me the 3 most important things about selling your home, the driver's going to go, price, price, price. Like, are you an idiot? Now, guys, don't be offended if you're a driver, because there's nothing wrong with the driver. All of these personality types are great. I am over exaggerating to make a point. Questions you have about a driver. here's your chance. We're gonna keep going. If you don't have questions, we will keep going.
Debbie,
All
it
right.
seems to me that a lot of people, I've noticed that they like to brag about being a driver. But from my experience, not everyone is, but in this world, this ecosystem, a lot of people brag about it.
Everybody, I've had people come up to me after I've done talks and say, can you help me become a driver? And I'll tell you what I say to them. No, God made you, universe, whatever you all want to call it, who you are, and you are perfect. This is not about trying to be something you're not. It's about helping someone reduce their stress and build rapport. So you don't have to change who you are. And yes, Ray, that happens a ton. People want to be a driver. No, you don't. Listen, I live with one. Trust me, you don't want to be a driver. There's a lot of better ones out there than that. You just want to be who you are. Fair enough?
Amen, sister.
Okay, so let's keep going. Expressives. You expressives will like this, especially the faces. I know. With an expressive, what would you say their favorite colors are? Somebody tell me.
Pink.
Yes, anything bright, bright pink, bright yellow,
Neon.
bright orange, bright blue. As long as it's bright, oh, they love that. That is
All
their
of them.
thing. Yes. Yes, it makes them happy. Now, their questions typically start with who? Well, who do you know? Who else sells in this subdivision? They probably have People Magazine or National Enquirer lying around. Just going to say. They may even have every book written about the Royals. I'm just saying, some of you are resembling this remark. Nothing wrong with that. You're expressive. Okay. Pictures, videos, emojis. If your listing presentation could be a video game, oh my gosh, they would love that. If they didn't have to read a lot of writing, they would like that too. Now, the other thing too with an expressive, I always say this one, and I know some of you have heard this, look around their house for live plants because they'll be dead. And they'll be dead because they likely forgot to water them. Actually, more importantly, they probably talked the plant to death. So just a little FYI, expressives like to talk. With an expressive, their home could easily be in disarray because that's not important. It's like with the driver, their home has everything is either expensive or made to look expensive. Now, you guys probably know somebody that resembles these personalities. If they are a family member or a client, you might want to write down what they are next to their name because this will help you later. Questions about expressives. Okay, keep going. Amiables. Favorite color of amiables? Pastel. Amiables like soft colors. They like fluffy, comfortable cushions. They like collaboration. They don't like chaos at all. Not at all. Their questions are typically why. However, with many amiables, if I were to say to them, so tell me the 3 most important things about selling this beautiful home you have. I would use home, not house with an amiable. Many times they'll say, that's a really good question. What do you think it should be? They will put the question right back on you because that's collaborating. And I hope that makes sense. No chaos, no collaboration. Whoops, questions. Let me go back. Questions about amiables. Don't rush them. Are any of you thinking about clients and you're starting to realize, holy crap, now I know their personality. No wonder we don't get along. You could be. Let's go analytical. Analytical's favorite color, beige. Beige. Everything within analytical is form or function, unless their spouse bought their clothes, which is why you will see an analytical guy in purple sometimes. Otherwise, you never would. But beige, sometimes gray, and they will wear some white, but they pretty much just like whatever they need to do to because they have to go outside of the house with clothes on. So there you go. Everything is form or function. Their questions start with how. How will you do this? How does that work? I always tell the story of this, one of our coaching clients who came up to me after a talk and said, you're not going to believe this. This client, I really didn't like him at all. We get out of the car to look at this house. And she said, he looked up and he went, how many shingles are on this roof? Now, guys, let's be honest. Would you know the number of shingles on any given roof that you're showing that's not your listing? No, but it's an important question for an analytical. Why? He likely had a problem in the past with a roof, and now the question's important to him. They answer everything with numbers. And if you don't put, by the way, those of you that are analytical looking at this slide, I know you see the mistake. Can you point it out? If you're analytical, I know you'll notice it. Maybe we have no analyticals here.
No period after the 3.
Who said that?
Paul, me.
Paul, you're right. I do
Sorry,
that on purpose. Huh?
I had my computer turned away.
Ah,
But I'm listening to you, and all of these are so far all of me, because I've tested before, and I'm pretty much all 4.
you're all for. Okay, well, we should talk about that. Because here's what I also know, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the 2 most important questions for people to ask. If you're analytical, when you're under pressure, you could become a driver. You could become an amiable, but you will not become more analytical, which is a good thing. Everyone has a personality they revert to under pressure. You're either under pressure in your personal life or you're under pressure in your business life. Either way, the one you're under pressure, you're going to revert to something next to where you are. Amiable could be analytical, could be expressive. Expressive could go amiable or driver. A driver could go expressive or analytical, and is also the only one that could become more of a driver. And you know, if you've ever met a driver, you'll remember them. Questions about this? Because here's what I do know, and I think, Jennifer, it was you that said you're all of them. You cannot be an amiable driver. You can't be diagonally. You can't be an analytical expressive. I've been told it's bipolar or schizophrenia, but I think probably it's just a simple personality disorder, nothing major. But you can't do that. It's impossible. What you can do, and there are, I think maybe I know 2 people in our ecosystem that seem to be able to do this. One does it easier than the other one. There are some people that, because of their childhood, because of their upbringing and their experiences growing up, they've been forced to get along with a personality type that's diagonally across. So they know tools to use to make that relationship work. Some people can, and some people who've studied this, like if I wanted to be something that's diagonally across from me, I could. I don't choose to, but if that's the client, I'm going to go there. So you can revert to other ones, but really it's more for your salvation in that moment rather than your life in general. Jennifer, does that make sense? Am I confusing you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Those are usually the clients you go, you know what, this isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which sometimes you have to do. I had a client who was expressive dealing with an analytical seller, single guy. She said, he won't clean up the house and he won't reduce the price. And I said, so what do you do? And she said, well, I call and I talk to him all the time. And I'm like, well, let's stop that because he's analytical. He doesn't need you to talk to him all the time. So we drafted an email like an analytical would like. And 2 weeks after the email, he reduced the price and cleaned the house up. All she did was get into his model of the world. That's all. She approached him in his comfort zone. That's all you're doing. So thoughts, questions, or hallucinations around what we've covered so far?
Driver. However, I do enjoy working with diagonal with the amiables. When I did full-time real estate, they were very easygoing in the vertical market I sold in. And so it's interesting because I had often thought, well, I can adjust to amiable. So what you're saying is it's very hard unless, of course, I'm kind of forced to. For example, when I moved here 4 years ago, my sister is a few doors down. She's amiable. So I've had to adjust, which has been difficult at times.
Yeah, you'd rather have a root canal, sure.
Yeah, because she's very sensitive and non-confrontational and
Right. Well, here's the thing. It's easy to do with a real estate client if it's a short-term relationship. Short-term, we can almost handle anything. Long-term, like with your sister, it could be tougher. And yes, you're right. You are a driver. It's my thought is you learn and grow by working on something that you don't know. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean you have to move in with them or marry them, for God's sakes. You just need to get into their model of the world in order to help them. And I've had people say, well, why should I do that? I'll just give them to somebody else to work with. And you can do that. But you could also be costing yourself a lot of money on a short-term relationship that would cause you to learn more about how to deal with that personality. Now, how many people here have dealt with somebody that they know is diagonally across the scale from them, like Carrie? Raise your hands. And sometimes it works, and sometimes they go away. And if they go away, what I think that means is we didn't observe enough. Yes, Emily. She's got her hand raised.
can't hear you, Emily. Turn your volume up.
Now I can't even see her hand. Well, she'll come back. Other questions you have? Yes, George. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, what about drivers dealing with drivers? You know?
Well, you know, unless you have knives or brought guns to the fight,
Right.
you'll be fine. You'll get along great because you're the same personality type.
Well, I found in one situation, it was actually a friend of mine, and he was off the chart, a driver. Very alpha A, and I am a little bit too, but it got to a point I fired him. I said,
Okay, but when you're not a driver, you are a.
I think I'm honestly, I think I'm diagonal, but I don't.
You think you're amiable?
Sometimes
Okay.
sometimes I fall into that. I think sometimes if I get,
I don't know you from Adam, but let me help you. You're
Okay.
analytical. I
Yeah,
think you're
probably.
analytical. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could be
probably,
wrong.
no, you're right.
I've only done it 20 years, but here's the
Yeah.
thing. You're analytical, and when that driver was going all driver on you, you were
Yeah.
like, man, you're just an idiot. If you just sit and listen and research this shit, you get it figured out.
Yeah.
I bet that's what you thought. I bet.
Well, with him, I just had to say, you're fired. I don't want to deal with you. Keep your money. I'll get someone else that can work with you. And he did apologize, and everything I suggested turned out exactly how it would. And now he loves me forever. But it was difficult. It was very difficult, I'll tell you. It was difficult for me to keep my ego down and not, that was my problem. Someone really comes at me too much, or think that I have a problem getting humble. It's something I talked to my coach about too. I got to bring myself down a little bit.
Your driver side of your personality you don't offend a driver. You do not make them wrong at all. But your analytical side has done the research. You know your shit. You know what's supposed to happen, and he just wouldn't listen to you. So your analytical and your driver cells in your brain were having a massive battle.
Okay. Yeah. I can
And
see
you
that.
got rid of
Yeah.
the problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Good job. It was a good thing that you did because it wasn't going to work.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Now, how much do you like expressives?
I don't like bright colors, so, but you know what? I know a lot of
Narrowing down
people.
his personality type.
I know a lot of people in the entertainment business, and they're all expressive. So I seem to get along with them pretty well. I get
Good.
along with expressives very well.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
And you were smart to do what you did. Other questions you have?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a couple of
Excellent.
clients, Debbie, that are looking to hire VAs and looking at specific tasks that they're wanting them to do.
Mhm.
So I'm advising to get the disc profile done, right? And if they're making cold calls, right, there should probably be a high D. And from my experience, if they're going against their normal path, right? So you might find someone who can do a good job for a little while that's not, right in their normal path. they're maybe then amiable, but they need to be a driver and they can do that job for a little while, but then it won't last long.
Yeah.
They'll
Hiring
burn
is
out.
different. Hiring is different for someone that's going to be in your office versus somebody that's going to be virtual. I would look at different profiles. With the virtual assistant, I would definitely have them take the DISC test and I would hire to the task. Not to necessarily working with you, because it's not likely their interaction is going to be as great as someone who's in the office with you. So for me, I think the expressives and the drivers are external decision makers. So I would hire somebody to do cold calling that was either of those personality types. I mean, either one.
Expressive or driver.
Expressive or driver, absolutely.
And admin, analytical, administrative types, more
And an
analytical.
admin type, I think I would go more amiable, analytical, because they're internal decision makers. In fact, amiables, those of you that are amiables, are considered the absolute best team players if you keep the chaos down. So yes, I would. If I'm hiring a VA, depending on what they're doing, the concept or the validity of relationship isn't as important because they're typically doing more tasks. Drivers and analyticals are more task driven. Expressives and amiables are more relationship driven. So, an analytical VA, depending on what you're having them do, would be great at the transaction, the closing of the transaction, of any kind of research, charts,
Compliance.
graphs, for creating things like that. In the office, though, it's different. If you're hiring somebody in your office, in your space, you want to start by recognizing who you are. If you're a driver or a driver and you want to hire an amiable to be your assistant, it might make it a day and a half. It won't make it long because you will pound them into the ground and they will run out the door crying. So I wouldn't hire an amiable as my assistant if I were a driver, because it's going to be a problem. So you just have to look at your personality and your under pressure personality and understand who you are before you hire. Because I've read these things before that says, oh, if you're hiring for this, you need a DS. If you're hiring for that, you need an SI. Honestly, the worst thing you can do is hire for that personality type that's going to be in your office. If it goes diagonally against who you are, you will hate you and them. Has anybody done that and realized they had the absolute wrong person and the person was probably lovely? They just were diagonally across from you. So I wouldn't do that. Other
Makes sense. Thank you.
questions? Oh, sure. Other questions? All right, so I'm going to go back to this sharing the screen.
I have a question, Debbie.
Yeah, fire
It's
away.
not necessarily, I just want to know if you have a link to the DISC test so that we can take it in.
I do
need
not
to-
have a link to the DISC test. I always use the social styles test, and here's why. And thank you for asking that question. On the social styles test, there are these four blocks, and underneath are the strengths and weaknesses of each. And you don't do the test because we are not how we are perceived. I perceive myself as being a blonde supermodel that's amiable, and no one else does. So when you do this test, you give it to 3 people in your personal life. They have to be human and adult, and 3 people in your business life, human and adult, and they must pick one. You cannot talk to them about it. You cannot help them with it. And when your amiable friends go, oh my God, you're none of the negatives, tell them they have to pick one anyway. You cannot help at all. And then you look at, and what I have clients do is I have them send me, my mother said I was, my coworker said I was, and then I can help them determine which part of their life is pressure and how to deal with people in that part of your life. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I like the social styles.
There
Thank
you
you,
are.
Carrie, for posting that. I hope that helps you. Other questions?
Do you know if that's a paid test or if they have a free version or
No,
one?
email me. I'll send it to you. I've even written the instructions at the top, but I found that it's better to also explain it. I have the test. I can just send it to you. But the key here is don't offer to help. Because if you
Okay,
offer
good-
help,
good to
it'll
know.
give you the answers. Huh?
That was good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't, literally, you email it to them and say, this is a very particular type of test we're doing. I cannot answer any questions about it. Don't worry about the positives and negatives, because I don't care about that. Just pick one that you think is most like me. And your mother always has a hard time with it. Well, most mothers. Anyway, okay. So let's keep moving on. This is an email. What's the personality type of this Anthony Young?
It's like analytical at a first glance.
Well, yeah, everything's numbered. Look at this. The successful sale of my home. Perhaps 1, 2, 3. I'm looking for expert guidance to clarify what may be to blame and to correct course accordingly. Please advise. He's analytical, right? Totally analytical. How do you respond to that email? The exact same way, with all the stuff at the bottom. He's got the name at the top and then Bob's business title and all that, the credentials. And again, you put 1, 2, 3 in there. This is like what I did for my client. Use words like, write this down, strategic, strategy, logically, step by step. Detailed is a great word to use. If you can get the word spreadsheet in there, that's just such a good thing to do. Love spreadsheet. It has to be words and phrases that they understand subconsciously, because while they may be reading, create a step-by-step process of exposing your home, their subconscious, that drunk monkey in our brain, is going, oh my God, this person's really smart. We should talk to them. But that's an analytical. Tell me, who might this personality be?
Expressive.
Yeah, love. Freaking emojis everywhere. Come on. Yes, listen, in a true email or text from an expressive, there's way more emojis than this. Super cute. We definitely have to see McAllister. Love the master math. Keep looking up, guys. That is definitely expressive.
Trish, I just see you nodding.
So how do we respond? Same subject line. It's great hearing for you. I'm glad this one might be the one. Thumbs up, fingers crossed. Oh my God. Right? Which slot works best for you? Let's see. Is it a good idea for us to see? Let me know. So excited for you. See, it's not hard, guys. I mean, it sometimes makes your stomach turn because it's not your personality that you like to deal with, but it's not hard to do. It's not
I
hard at all.
get that, but doesn't that seem unprofessional a little bit? I kind of struggle with that, with the emoji.
Well, what's your personality type?
What's my personality type?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure, but amiable or expressive, one of those.
Okay.
I would put the emojis in normally, but I just think it's unprofessional. So I was just curious.
It's only unprofessional if you do that with an analytical.
Okay.
They wouldn't like it at all. I wouldn't do it with the driver either. Remember, their task. This is
okay.
relationship. If the client, see, again, do I want to reduce their stress and build rapport, or do I want to say to them, that email's a little unprofessional, but let's go look at houses. No, you can't. Does that make sense, Aaron? You want to get into their model of the world. It doesn't mean that you're going to address every expressive for the rest of your life like this. What it means is you're going to address them based on the way they address you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you got an email like this and you were an analytical, and as an analytical, you decide you're going to respond like that, the expressive will not make it through the entire email. They will be done, and they will be done with you. And I think this is very, very professional, but it's not an expressive. Now, some of you expressors are like, well, I would never do my email like this. Then don't. I'm just saying, we're trying to get into their model of the world and help them. Because I do have this firm belief that when people don't deal with us, they could be dealing with a real estate agent that's an idiot, that isn't going to help them, that doesn't really know what they're doing. Not that there are many like that out there, but there are some. I would rather use what I've worked so hard to learn to help people make a good decision. And the resistance in their brain typically comes from they're a different personality than me. Oh, and Anita says, I want a listing presentation with an expressive. I sent a lot of text messages with emojis. Because for an expressive, this is just how they feel. I totally support your comment, Aaron, and I completely understand, because I look at this and go, it makes me want to email them back with a bunch of poop emojis. It's like, come on. But this is their model of the world, and I need to honor that. They will be forever a client of mine because I got into their model of the world. And I don't have to say to them, now look, I'm going to do this. It sucks, but hey, I'm getting in your model of the world. You don't do that. You just do what you need to do to help them reduce their stress level, because buying and selling is stressful. Aaron, I hope that helps. All right, here's the next one. Who might that be? Well, let me help you. It's a driver. Not that drivers always yell, because they don't, but they do wear black and white. See, for a driver, you would respond just like that. Today, confirmed, need disclosures, emailed. Because you'll know they are a driver because the entire body of the email is in the subject line. People, a few words, they get the point across. That's it. If you were to write back with an emoji, that would be a bad thing. If you were to write a novel back to them, if you were to number stuff, they might not like it. You see, they're coming at you in that email in the personality style that they have buying and selling a house. And it's typically their under pressure style. So does it mean that if a driver's also an analytical, that once you get to know them, you could respond to them in an analytical fashion? Yes, because once you build rapport, their stress level goes down. Okay, so I totally confused you guys yet, or what questions do you have?
Debbie, I have a lot of automated communication and I'm very analytical. So am I turning clients off potentially that don't accept my communication style? And should I, if we have automated communication, should that be from a certain personality standpoint?
100%. If you can determine their personality type, I'll send this PowerPoint to Ray. I can send it to you and you can send it to all the other coaches and you all can send it to your clients. Go back and refer to this. Go back to the PowerPoint and refer to it and look at your email and go, okay, who are they being in this email? Because they will pick you because of your ability to do the research, to calculate the numbers, to be very thorough. But depending on their personality type, it might not feel good because you're a thinker and a task person, and like expressive is a relationship person, and they're a feeler. So if you try to approach them with an analytical email, they're done. It's just like I say to people, if you have an analytical client and they ghost you for 2 weeks and you call your coach and go, oh my God, my client just must have fired me. I haven't heard from them. No, they're analytical. They're just doing research. They'll get back to you. Stay in touch. They will, but they've got to do their research. That's important to them. Other questions? Keep going. Now, the last one's easy because you've already heard the other three. It's the amiable. Here's an amiable email. And by the way, this holds true for text as well. I have a couple of questions. If you don't mind, thank you very much. And I hope you have a nice day. How many people write, I hope you have a nice day these days? Like no one. But an amiable might, because they do mean that. They like people. By the way, do you notice when I start talking about amiables, I've slowed down my rate of speech, my tonality changes? Does anybody notice that? You soften your voice when you talk to an amiable. Because if you want to be a driver and like smack the shit out of them, they will leave. you have to use your tonality and your pauses differently with different personality types. So here's your response. Thank you for your email, Anna. Don't send it, those drivers that don't even want to put their name at the top or yours at the bottom. Don't do that. They like that you have their name. What other questions do you have? I'm here to serve you. In fact, if you like, I can arrange for a private showing of this property. Now, if I was saying that to a driver, I'd say, I can get you in that property today. But you see the difference, just the little nuances? Questions you have. Questions you have.
Funny thing I heard once, it helped drive it home about drivers, right? Is I heard someone say, don't tell me about the labor pains, just show me the baby.
Who said that? That is such a driver.
Yeah.
Such a driver. Yes. And the expressive and the amiable want to hear all the details of the labor pains. But that's okay. All right, I'm going to keep going because I think this part is really kind of the fun part. And I think I was only supposed to take an hour. I will try to hurry through this. So if you're a driver, guys, this is you drivers out there, slow down with slow people. Now, I don't mean slow as in dumb people. I mean, slow down with somebody that needs time to think like an analytical, or someone that needs time to feel it right, like an amiable. Take time to listen to the ideas of others. Let me help you, drivers. Of course, they're not your ideas. Of course, they're wrong, but don't do that with them. Listen to their ideas. Give their ideas value, whether or not they do it or not, or even if you disagree. Hold back from dominating. Act more relaxed. You know, if you're as a driver, when you ask them a question, you see this great big bottle of water, I suggest you drink. That will give them time to answer the question. Questions about this? Some of you hate me now. Okay, let's keep going. Pleasure. Your pleasure as a driver is power, control, and respect. So the flip side of this is if you're dealing with a driver, they like to feel like they're in power, like they're in charge, and you have to let them feel like they are. They need to feel like they have control. Typically, they like to drive. Okay, go ahead, drive. That's wonderful. And you cannot let them feel you don't respect them. A driver might say, well, I'm going to list my house. I'm probably going to list my house with somebody that has all the signs in the neighborhood. You can't go, well, that's stupid. They don't sell houses. They just put the signs up. That would never work. You can say, you know, I can totally see where you're coming from about the signs in the yards. And as you already know, I don't have to tell you, when you see the signs, that's the person who listed it. But did you know that 95% of all houses sold in any community were sold by an agent outside of the community that's working the market of people coming in? But I mean, you already knew that, right? So with a driver, words like, I know I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you've already figured that out. As you already know, those are the words and phrases you use with a driver. If they ask you a question, do not recite a novel. So do I think this house is a good value? Yeah. And you might expand on that with an expressive or an amiable, but I wouldn't with a driver. Because those questions, they already know their own answer. Questions you have about this? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Pain.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, just an example, okay?
Mhm.
By the way, and I find myself that I'm a little older and I've been in sales for a long time, almost, I have to go in a meeting, I go, dude, just slow down, take a breath. Don't get, because I could be very driven and, but again, I'm actually going back to the same guy, okay? And and I get prepared. I was pretty prepared for it. I knew his personality. I never knew you had labels. We had labels like this, but this guy was a strong personality. And so I came in very, very prepared. I knew exactly what that house cost. But here he is, Mr. Know-it-all, okay? And we're at the gym. And he goes, well, I spoke to Charlie from the gym, and he thinks I can list it for $725. You know what I'm saying? You can list it for 720. I'm letting you know the house is only worth 600,000. That's not what Charlie said. And he'll go with the guys in the gym, you know, and come back and I get to a point, you know.
So
I
instead
feel
of
I have to
saying
be
that,
more.
George, instead of saying that, say, I can appreciate where Charlie is coming from, and I know I don't have to tell you. The data that is used to determine value is historical, and we do need to make adjustments. Why don't we sit down and do a quick, like, review the data, discuss the numbers, and come up with a great price for you?
He still didn't believe me.
Huh?
He still didn't believe me.
But you didn't say it like that.
Maybe not.
Oh.
You know what? You're right. And what happened was like that.
Yeah. Well,
And I
because
believe
he offended you. He offended you
Right.
after all the research you've done. But unfortunately, instead of being offended, which you can underneath the surface
Right.
go, this guy really is an idiot. The guy's a gym.
idiot.
Yeah. So, but you can't say that to him.
Yeah.
You have to say, you have to give him respect. Listen, I appreciate where the gym rat's coming from, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And as you already know, and you just have to use these phrases, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
These little things are really, really powerful used in the right way. All right, let's keep going.
Go ahead,
So
thank you.
you're expressive. Listen more, slow down and relax. Write things down. I know you love audiobooks, but it's okay to write some things down. Set specific goals. Short term is better. Check your details. Stay calm. Learn to concentrate. Really, really important for you expressives. See if this will go there. Expressives need recognition and approval. Good job. I have a friend that's all she wants to say to everybody. Good job, because she's a driver, and she's learned this stuff, and she wants to get along with people. And so it's the only thing she can think of to do is just good job. It doesn't matter your personality type, but it works. Pain, isolation, and lack of attention. Communication is really important with an expressive. Even if you just communicated some emojis and see what they can figure them out. I'm just saying. Amiable. Talk more. Listen a little bit less. Take some risks. It's okay to project your voice because it helps you take control. It's okay to be assertive. Speed up when you're speaking with fast people. That can be hard. But if you've got a driver client, I would think about what I want to say and practice it, and then I'd say it real fast. That gets into their model of the world. I know some of you are like, this is crazy. Amiables like stability and cooperation. They don't like change and chaos. If you want to know why they shut down, it's because somewhere between the contract being signed and the closing, something went too fast. So you have to sit down, calm down, and walk through it again with them. They're not stupid. They just care very deeply. So you're analytical. How do you deal with others? Smile more, or hey, just smile. It's good. It's good for you. Show appreciation and personal interest. Relax, share information, and be open. And listen, it's okay to get excited. Exciting is a good thing. Now, again, guys, I have just gone over the top with all of this with you. So don't be offended. I'm not a not nice person. However, to make this point, because this can be such a great nuanced way to build your business, I went over the top. Questions, thoughts, comments, or hangups?
So I have a question. So I'm a driver, and so I live in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley area, and there are a lot of engineers, analytical types, and I find that just showcasing the driver skill set helps them get out of their brain with the analysis paralysis part of things. And then, so it seems like it's opposite, right? Like for an expressive, right? We can't figure things out because they want to feel everything. But then I find that my driver side helps say, okay, are we going to feel like this is the right house? Or are we going to actually find the right house based on the criteria that we talked about?
That's a great script to use. But as a driver, you don't go around asking anybody how they feel, because really, but you're using skills. So you're thinking, well, my driver personality is helping this expressive. Nuh-uh, you're getting into their model of the world. Good job. I mean, that's what you're doing is really, really good, because when you're around a driver, you aren't going to feel shit, because that's just not how drivers do. Now, you may be a driver expressive, which means you do have feelings. The same thing with an analytical. You have to honor their research, and then you can boil it down to 2 or 3 sentences of what they need to do. What you're doing is you're honoring those personality types, is still being you, but using words and phrases and things you do to get into their model of the world. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. You got this. Good. That's really good.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Other questions or thoughts?
Debbie, I was a little bit slightly unsure. My training on, and of course, I'm not going to question you because you're a master at this stuff, but of hiring is that the S and the C in a specific administrative role is very important, that it is above the 50% and that they can sometimes adapt if it's not quite there, but that it can go up. But you're
100%.
saying more importantly, to not have the diagonal relationship. Is that what I was hearing you
If
say?
I'm a driver and I think I'm going to hire an analytical and that's going to work, I've lost my mind. It
Okay.
won't work. It's not possible. However, if they are an analytical amiable, it might. I wouldn't go amiable analytical, but an analytical amiable or an analytical driver might work fine.
Okay.
Again, it's they put those things out there like, okay, if you're a this, you hire this. The problem is they're not taking into consideration the leader, the boss. And have you ever had a boss that just made you crazy? I mean,
Yeah.
we all can think of people that we would never work for again. My very first boss, I think he was just bipolar. It was just the hard. I mean, I couldn't find a way to work with it. Nobody could. No wonder he had a 98% turnover rate. No wonder. So, I don't want to say anything against that process, but it's cut and dried without thinking about the person they're going to deal with. That's my only point. I might be a driver and get an expressive amiable or an expressive driver to do admin. You know, would they be as good as an analytical amiable? No. But again, you've got, if I'm an amiable, I might hire one of our great clients is an amiable, and she has a team. When I first started coaching her, I thought, oh, this is going to be so hard. But what she always did in hiring is she hired no one that had amiable in them at all. She hired one agent that was a driver, and it was a disaster, and she had to let him go. Now she looks for a predominantly expressive driver for sales agents, analytical drivers for admin. So she's looking at what complements who she is. That's the point. There's no right or wrong. You just got to, I always take it back to whoever the leader is, the boss.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And again, VA versus in-house is totally different.
We had a very good win this week or recently with one of my clients. I won't say her name, Rosaline. She had an appointment, a listing appointment. She won like 1.5 million. And she was kind of worried. She's a little newer, didn't have a listing presentation, was kind of worried about that. And I said, tell me about the client. You talked to her, but I'd like to get your feedback on this. But I said, tell me about the client. And she said, first thing she said was, I think she's a hoarder.
Oh, great.
Well, and I said, tell me more, you know, and come to find out she was older, a hoarder, a little bit softer. And I said, well, sounds to me like she's older and she's probably amiable. I think you're going to need to go in there and just have your listing presentation, but keep it in your bag. Don't pull it out. Just listen to her and ask her what's important to her. And I said, she's probably going to just want to know that everything's going to be okay, and that you're going to take good care of her. And she won. She got it. She won it. She was competing. And that's all it was.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I think asking what's most important to you, like I said before, tell me the most important thing. Or you could say, you could Phil Jones it, help me understand the 3 most important things about selling your home. Your competition isn't doing that. They're going in and going, okay, here's my presentation. I won this award and I sold this house and I'm really good. And I even will trim your shrubs and wash your windows when you list with me. There was one in my town that did that. They don't take time to ask what the client wants. So
That was me.
kudos
I did
to
that.
you. Good job.
I had
Brad.
an iPad presentation with all the badass stuff I did in marketing, and half of them didn't care.
They
Didn't care.
don't. People only care about what's in it for them. It's not that they don't care about you, but they're going to care about you when they know you care most about them and their outcome. That's the difference between who gets it and who doesn't. So good job.
Anything
Oh.
else, Rosaline? Do we miss anything on that? The appointment?
Oh, no, that was really good. I was really nervous because, I haven't gotten any, well, the last 2 listings I hadn't gotten, and I switched teams and they had a whole new listing presentation that I was trying to familiarize myself with. And so that advice to just keep it in your bag and just have a conversation with her was like the catalyst that really broke through to her, and just having that conversation and having that eye contact and just listening. And you said just let her talk most of the time, and I did that, and she just loves me now. So we're helping her. I'm helping her sell her house and then also buying another one as well. So
Perfect.
it worked out.
For those of you women, if you can get to our women's event, April 13th and 14th in Phoenix, Arizona. I don't know if some of you live there, but if you're a direct flight, you should. I've got Shannon Gillette, one of our great clients, is going to present how to come list me from social media, literally people calling you to come list the house. And then I've got Carolyn Young, who's going to go over her presentation for her listing, because we've had several clients use it and they're getting it every single time they're using that presentation. I've got another gal that's going to talk about how to diversify your lead sources in this market, because it is a changing market. And then it's a ton of fun anyway. Sorry, guys. But for those of you women that haven't joined our Women Influencing Real Estate Facebook page, do that. And if you can get to Wire, the information is on there on the page. You should come. It's a day and a half. And it's just chock full of really, really great stuff. So guys, I don't know, a wig, a dress, I don't know. Sorry. So please do join Women Influencing Real Estate and look at coming at our event. It's usually an event of about 100 women, so it's not huge. It's much more, it's much easier to like create relationships and share ideas. So certainly consider coming if you're close by. And it made me think of that because you said Bay Area. That's not that far. That's a just short flight. All right, other thoughts or questions, guys?
Thank you. Thank you.
No, listen, anytime, my pleasure. I just love this because when you just use part of it, you're going to win. You're going to walk away from an appointment and go, how was that easy? Just by learning. Start by practicing on family, current clients, coworkers, figuring out what they are and using some of the words and phrases.
Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Debbie, appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye,
Debbie.
guys.
Bye-bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Debbie.